Alright, what's up YouTube? This is Seikafu coming at you with the top 5 favorite Sinnoh Pokemon that I think you should try for your second run through with the new BDSP remakes. These new Pokemon I think, are kind of underappreciated in the fact that perhaps they're not as cool in design, they are harder to obtain, or just downright, not that great in terms of stats. But I think as long as you find that coverage that can cover that particular Pokemon's weaknesses, I don't think actually these Pokemon are that bad, and you could get creative in using these. Even they might even be somewhat applicable to Nuzlocke, although obviously that's a little bit more limited. But for just a playthrough, I think you should try these Pokemon particularly, just simply because they're so underappreciated, yet they're not actually that bad for the entire process from start to finish, from the first gym leader against Rourke all the way into beating Cynthia at the finals. So here we are. These are my top 5 most recommended Pokemon that you should try your second journey with Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl. Here we have it. First off the list, number 5, Hippowdon. And to be quite honest, right off the bat, I haven't seen or have heard a lot of people use Hippowdon, obviously, in the past, during, the original Diamond, Pearl, Platinum teams, simply because, obviously, it's not until later down the road when you can encounter Hippowdon. At the end of the day, Ground is a really great typing, it has good coverage, doesn't have a lot of weaknesses, obviously. And the stats are actually pretty decent, obviously, it has a focus on attack and bulk. So it's a high bulk attacker, low defense, which obviously you can kind of have coverage on. So have coverage on a high special attack sweeper and have coverage on ground. I think it's not that bad. And I definitely think, a lot of people should actually just try Hippowdon as its main ground type Pokemon in their team. All right, so number 4, Crobat. Now, before you kind of go in and say like, hey, you know what? A lot of people actually did use Crobat in Gen 4 during the original Diamond Pearl Platinum. That is true, and I feel like, at the end of the day, even though I'm sure like, of all the flying types surveyed that people used for their original teams in Diamond Pearl Platinum, I'm more than confident to say that Staraptor was obviously probably the most popular, and perhaps Honchkrow, Crobat, Togekiss probably came. I'm not too sure what the order is, but I definitely actually think Crobat is still underappreciated, simply because not only is it the secondary typing is amazing, poison. You have a very high leverage of using poison across all the battles in Diamond Pearl, but also its stats are just off the charts. So even though Inner Focus isn't really the greatest ability per se, you have high coverage on both defenses. You have high speed that probably covers a low attacking, bulk attacking Hippowdon I mentioned earlier. So high speed kind of covers half your team there already. But you still have, generally just good stats across the board with a focus on attack. You still have access to a decent moveset with Cross Poison, Poison Fang, Air Slash, but I know Air Slash is a special attack, but there's also stuff like Bite, there's stuff like Mean Look, Confuse Ray. It's still a really decent moveset, and I don't even need to get started on the fact that there's fairy types now within this generation. It just makes Crobat so much more versatile. You've got so many strong poison types that can cover it, especially if Cynthia brings out Togekiss like she did in Platinum, and other fairy types you encounter in the game. I mean, look at this thing. I actually have no idea. I need to look at its measurements. I don't know how big this thing is, honestly. It looks so small, yet so strong. And it looks like honestly, it looks like Golbat's a little bit more of like a final evolution, besides obviously the 4 wings versus 2. But anyhow, yeah, Crobat is amazing. I think we should definitely try it out. It's, I mean, it was already used a lot in the original generation, but I definitely think, skip out on Staraptor, try Crobat for once. See how it really plays out. I think it'll be amazing, even for Nuzlocke too, given its typing and its speed in battle. I think it'll be very valuable, especially in Nuzlocke because of that. All right, so moving on to number 3, we got Magmortar, and you know what? I think this is actually a very good, valid option for this top 5 recommended, underappreciated list, simply because not only has, Sinnoh, first of all, doesn't have a lot of good fire types, and that's like obviously a main controversial issue about Sinnoh. The lack of fire types, or the lack of usable fire types, is still an ongoing issue, and say no more to Magmortar. I personally think Magmortar's stats are, first of all, they're decent. Obviously you don't have great defense and HP. But the thing is, with Flame Body, physical attackers per se, have a 30% chance of getting burned, and thus, the 50% reduction in attack. That kind of covers a little bit for that lack of defense for Magmortar. And without going too far, everything else is decent. You got okay speed, you got really good special defense, and really high special attack. Magmortar can act as a really good special attack sweeper against physical attackers or special defense attackers, to be honest. Now, it might be able to only take like 1 to 2 attacks at most for physical attackers because of that low defense, but you could definitely block with that Flame Body ability. And at the end of the day, it doesn't really act as a stall or anything. It's just a pure attacker that you can utilize, but at the same time, it's bulky. You have access to a high moveset. You can even use Confuse Ray. You have so many good fire type moves you can use. Fire Blast, Sunny Day, Flamethrower, Lava Plume, all special attacks. Fire Spin, all utilize that high special attack, as well as Confuse Ray, Hyper Beam, just for that kind of, out of nowhere crazy normal attack move that's 150 base attack. For most teams that might not even have fire types unless you chose Infernip as your starter, I think Magmortar is a really good alternative. Obviously you're going to have to trade Magmar in order to get a Magmortar, and hopefully this Magmatizer will be much more easier to obtain in BDSP. I know in the originals, it was in Platinum at least, it was located in Route 214. I don't know how hard it was to get it in the original Diamond Pro. I think it was really hard, and I think they finally provided an easier way to get it in Platinum. So hopefully that's the same way in BDSP, so you can finally get access to Magmortar, because the stats are actually not bad, and its ability kind of covers that defense. All right, so moving on to number 2. We got Clefable, and this time around with that added fairy type, for a fact this is going to be a completely upgraded Pokemon that you can finally use, and it's as a more viable option in Diamond Pearl Platinum. With access to Cleffa, obviously you're going to have to raise its happiness level. Might be a little bit difficult or annoying near the beginning, but let's just be honest here. Sinnoh's a long game. It's a long journey across the entire regions. Take your time, raise that happiness level, or just catch Clefairy. I think in Diamond Pearl Platinum you could get that Mount Coronet, so in BDSP that's probably going to be the same. Catch that Clefairy, get a Moonstone, and then get that Clefable. I think this time around it's going to be so useful. You get access to a large, nice, powerful fairy move pool, access to a lot of blockers as well, Reflect, Light Screen, some good move tutor attacks that hopefully will return to Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, such as Trick, Bounce, Knockoff. These are all just, like a very high diverse typing move pool that you could use. But, it is not great as a tank per se, but it's great as a utility player and staller. And that's what I know for a fact. It used to be used like that in the competitive landscape. So hopefully you could actually incorporate Clefable's interesting moveset with the fairy typing at your disposal. And to be honest, it's stats, they're not great, but they are manageable, and especially you're not focusing on trying to attack all the time. You focus on that special attack whenever you do have attack. Without regards to the attack stats, everything else is pretty decent. Defense is okay. You can definitely find something a bit more bulkier to kind of cover for that low defense. With stuff such as Light Screen or Reflect, that can definitely half the damage anyways. You also have access to Substitute, both Sunny Day and Rain Dance if you're trying to run that type of team. You got Attract, you got Swagger. There's a lot of interesting moves that you could try to use at your disposal to support the rest of your team here. All right, now moving on to number 1. And despite Ice being very much a hated type for its various different weaknesses and just the ability for a lot of water types to be able to use Ice moves, I think Mamoswine is by far a very underappreciated Pokemon and should be used much more often in various different teams. It has very interesting typings. So you got Ice and Ground. Now there's a lot of various different weaknesses that Mamoswine will be targeted with. But at the same time, Mamoswine can have a lot of good coverage. You got coverage against Cynthia's Garchomp, and it should be able to even take on 1 or 2 super effective attacks because of Mamoswine's stats. You got decent defense, you got really good HP, you got completely mundane special attack that doesn't really matter as long as you have that covered. Yeah, as long as you have other Pokemon that have high special defense. And you even have decent speed with 80 base speed for that large mammoth or swine or both. Well, yeah, it's called Mamoswine. But anyways, yeah, it's interesting. You got, why is this large furry thing so fast for just look at its design. It has similar speed comparable to Absol, Togekiss, Altaria, while being faster than stuff like Krogunk. Like, dude, how is this faster than an Absol? Look at the two. You know what I mean. So I think, and the 130 base attack is crazy, and combining that with a large move pool for both ice and ground stab physical attacks like Earthquake, Ice Fang, Dig, Giga Impact, Stone Edge, Avalanche, it's crazy. And I think in all, I think it's actually really, really good. And you even have decent utility moves, Substitute and Swagger if you're trying to build a bulky Mamoswine. So at the end of the day, I think like a Dragon ground type like Garchomp, all Mammoth needs is just be able to tank one attack to KO it. And you can totally do that with those stats. So yes, all in all, those were my 5 Pokemon that I think are so severely underappreciated and, dare I say, underrated. Now, obviously, you can completely dig at me in the comments to let me know if I've missed anything, if I've missed any certain weakness of any of the Pokemon I've mentioned today, or if there's any alternatives that are actually better than what I've mentioned today. Please let me know in the comments below. More than happy to discuss with everyone here. But yes, hopefully, you know, with the excitement and the hype going around, even though there are a lot of controversies and a lot of mixed opinions with these remakes, you know, a lot of us Gen 4 folks who started off playing the entire franchise with Sinnoh, I think I'm just overall excited no matter what happens with these remakes, man. I'm excited to play around. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like and comment as well, and I will see you real soon. Take care. Ciao.